Story 1. The Crying Girl Under Millstone Bridge. I used to drive a delivery route through rural Kentucky, and one of my shortcuts involved crossing Millstone Bridge, a crumbling old concrete span over a shallow creek. Locals said the bridge was haunted, but I never paid much attention to stories like that. It was faster, and on long night shifts I wasn't looking to add more miles. The first time something happened, it was late autumn, the sky clear but moonless, and the only sounds were my tires humming against the road. As I approached the bridge, I thought I saw movement on the shoulder ahead, something pale moving just beyond the glow of my headlights. My stomach dropped when I realized it was the figure of a girl, no older than 12, standing barefoot in a torn white dress. She wasn't facing me, just standing with her head bowed, hair covering her face. My foot hovered over the brake, but instinct screamed not to stop. I drove past her as quickly as I could, gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles burned. The strangest part was the sound. As soon as my front bumper reached the bridge, the night filled with soft crying, echoing from beneath the concrete span. It wasn't just in front of me, it was all around, like hidden speakers under the road. When I checked the rearview mirror, the girl was gone. That would have been enough to keep me off Millstone Bridge for good, but my boss didn't like excuses, and I had to use the route again 2 weeks later. I told myself it was a trick of the dark, maybe some local kid pulling a prank, but as soon as I got near, the air grew icy cold inside my cab. The radio started hissing static, and the headlights seemed dimmer, like something was sucking the electricity out of them. This time when I crossed, the crying was louder, broken sobs that turned into words. I could hear a girl's voice whispering, "Help me, please help me." I drove faster, heart hammering in my chest, but my eyes betrayed me. Out of the corner of my vision, I saw her clinging to the guardrail as my truck passed, her head snapping toward me as if pulled by invisible strings. I couldn't tell anyone at work, but I asked around town a bit, careful not to look like I believed in ghost stories. One older guy at a diner finally leaned over and told me what he knew. Decades ago, a girl drowned under Millstone Bridge when her father's car slid into the creek. The man escaped, but the girl was pinned under the water. People said he tried to save her, but others whispered he was drunk and left her there. The old man looked me dead in the eyes and said, "If you hear her crying, don't stop, and for God's sake, don't answer." The last time I drove that route was the night before I quit the job. I was halfway across when I heard her again, only this time she wasn't sobbing. She was laughing. The sound was high-pitched and broken, echoing up from the water. Then something slammed against the underside of the bridge so hard my truck bounced. I nearly lost control as I sped off, my rearview mirror shaking. The laughter followed me until the bridge disappeared from sight. I've never gone back. Story 2. The man in the tunnel. I grew up near Pittsburgh, where there are tunnels carved through the hillsides to connect the city's rivers and valleys. I used to love driving through them, the way the lights streaked across the ceiling and the sound of engines reverberated off the walls. That changed after one night in the Fort Haynes tunnel. It was around midnight, and traffic was light. My girlfriend had fallen asleep in the passenger seat, and I was sipping gas station coffee to keep myself awake. As I entered the tunnel, I noticed something strange. The taillights ahead of me disappeared, swallowed up by a rolling shadow. I thought it was exhaust or maybe a burned-out section of lights, but when my own headlights reached the same spot, the beam seemed to vanish, as if the darkness was eating the light itself. Halfway through, my girlfriend woke up with a start. She whispered, "Who's that?" I thought she was dreaming until I looked. In the middle of the right lane, barely illuminated, stood a man. He was tall, wearing what looked like an old raincoat, the fabric glistening like it was soaked. He didn't move when I honked. He didn't flinch when my high beams hit him. His face was wrong. The best way I can describe it is that it didn't seem attached to his skull, like a mask that was sliding downward, the features smeared and sagging. I swerved into the other lane, heart racing, and glanced at the rearview mirror as I passed. He was gone. By the time we exited the tunnel, both of us were shaken. I pulled over, trying to calm down, and that's when I noticed the dampness. The back seat was wet, as if someone had been sitting there in soaked clothes. The smell of stagnant water filled the car. My girlfriend begged me not to go back through that tunnel, but the city layout made it unavoidable sometimes. A week later, I tried again during the day, telling myself the night had played tricks on us. Traffic was heavy, sunlight pouring through the far end, and I almost laughed at myself. But as I approached the spot where we'd seen him, my radio cut out and the car seemed to lose power for just a moment. My dashboard flickered, then came back. In that blink, every driver in front of me hit their brakes at once, and I swear I saw him again, standing in the middle of the lane. Only this time, when my car passed through, there was a splash, like hitting a puddle, though the pavement was bone dry. Some people say the man is the ghost of a commuter who drowned when his car got stuck in a flooded tunnel years ago. Others whisper he's not human at all, just something that lives in the dark where sound and light twist. I don't know which is true. All I know is every time I drive through the Fort Haynes tunnel, I lock my doors, turn up the music, and pray I don't see that sagging face again. Story 3. The old railroad bridge. Back in high school, I used to hang out with friends near an abandoned railroad bridge on the edge of town. It was rusted and half-rotted, covered in graffiti, stretching across a gorge with a black river far below. Parents warned us not to go there, but warnings only made it more tempting. We'd sit on the beams at night, drinking cheap beer and daring each other to walk across the rails. But one summer night changed all of that for me forever. There were 5 of us, sitting on the west end when we heard footsteps. Not the echo of our own, but heavy, deliberate steps on the far side. We froze, thinking maybe a cop was coming to bust us, but when the figure appeared, it wasn't anyone we recognized. He was huge, easily 6.5 feet tall, wearing a tattered coat that dragged along the ground. His gait was strange, too slow and too steady, like he wasn't walking but gliding. "Yo, man, you lost," one of my friends called, trying to sound tough. The figure didn't answer. He just kept moving closer. Something about the way the shadows clung to him made my stomach twist. When he reached the middle of the bridge, he stopped. The night went dead silent, not even the crickets chirped. Then he crouched down and began dragging his hands along the railings, scraping metal with a sound so sharp it hurt our ears. That was enough for us. We grabbed our stuff and bolted for the woods, but I made the mistake of looking back. The man had stood up again, and now his face was visible in the moonlight. It wasn't a face at all. It was pale, smooth skin stretched tight over bone, no eyes, no mouth, nothing. Yet I swear I heard him laughing. For weeks afterward, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard that scraping sound. Some of the guys tried to go back to prove it was just a drifter, but the bridge was different. Someone had ripped down the boards on the far end, and carved into the metal beams were symbols none of us recognized, spirals and jagged lines that looked like they'd been burned into the steel. The last time I went near the place was during a thunderstorm. I drove by on the road that passed under the gorge, and lightning lit up the bridge for just a second. I saw him there, standing perfectly still in the rain, coat whipping in the wind. Only this time he wasn't alone. There were others with him, lined up along the rails, all facing the road, all faceless. People in town say the bridge was built on land where a work crew went missing during construction, swallowed by the river when scaffolding collapsed. Others say it's older than that, cursed ground where rituals were held long before the tracks were laid. Whatever it is, I'll never set foot on that bridge again. And if you ever hear footsteps out there in the dark, I'd advise you to run, because not everyone who goes onto that bridge comes back.